Let's now get into the most complicated series of movements that we routinely have to do. And I'm again speaking to those people with the restricted posture movement impairment. Steps create a huge barrier to them. It doesn't matter if it's a smaller step up like that Wii Fit board down there, it's still a step up. And it's the same difficulty level as these bigger steps here, which are 8 inches from the top surface to the floor. Now, some people will say, yeah, but that Wii Fit board, it's a smaller area. That makes it more difficult. Well, yes and no. The difficulty is not necessarily the smaller area of the board, because that could be this size at that level, and it still presents the same issues. Now, coming up the step, stepping up, is a problem for these people. But stepping down off of that step, that platform, is the most complex movement we do. And therefore, stepping down, going downstairs, is the most challenging, the most frightening, the most scary to these people. Problem is, those steps are not this big platform of floor like you see everywhere else. That's just nice, big, smooth, flat, hard surface. Well, each step is just a flat floor that's elevated above the rest of the floor. Each one is an individual flat floor. When you look at a staircase, it's all a series of smaller flat floors as you go up or come down. So this is a mixture of walking on a hill or an incline, but doing so on individual smaller flat floors. With these being a mixture of walking on an angled surface and little flat floors, it creates its own little paradigm of what do we need to do differently to be able to negotiate these. Well, the answer actually is you don't need to really do anything different, nothing at all. And in fact, when you start doing things differently from the basics of natural movement, that's when we, people with these restrictive posture movement impairments, that's when we get into trouble. The biggest issue with steps coming up or going down is postural problems. Walking around on these big flat floors, people with these restrictive postures tend to favor walking back towards their heels on their feet. And we've covered that in a lot of different videos, and it's covered well in the book as well. So when they have those issues of walking on this big flat floor, now when they're on this smaller flat floor that's separated with an elevation change, the problems that they have on the big flat floor are multiplied. They're exaggerated even more so, because this requires that you be a little more precise, that you be in more control, better control of posture, and have a more relaxed posture, and have those flexing joints, flexing feet, and you maintain the push. Now, going up or coming down the step. Going up, it's quite obvious. You're going up, so you really have to push your body up to get it from the floor up to the step. You have to continue pushing up to get there. What about going down? What's the mystery there? You still have to have a push. You still have to push from your foot to go down. Now, admittedly, it's not as much as it is for going up, but it's still a push to go down. Yes, gravity is going to help take you down quite a bit, but you still have to have the push from your foot to get you there. Why? When you're walking across the big flat floor, what does that entail? It entails taking stride after stride after stride in a continuous fashion. Well, when you're walking on steps, it's the same thing. It's the same stride. You're taking a stride up, or you're taking a stride down. And that is a big problem that people with these restrictive postures get into. They're not taking a stride. They're trying to do it in a different manner, either pulling themselves up with a handrail or haphazardly trying to take that scary stride going up. But even more so, the ultra scary stride going down is something they refuse to do. Not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. It's the fear of falling down the step and or down the staircase, and it's very intimidating. Now, why is going down the step, taking that stride down the step, why is that so much more difficult than going up the step? Well, it's much more difficult because of the nature of the beast, of the nature of what the movement actually is. Very simplified, the difference is this. When you're coming up onto this step, you're pushing from the back foot to move you onto this step, and notice this knee right now is flexed. Well, I have to center my body over this foot to be able to push in that foot and then come up on the step. I'm pushing from the back foot and squatting on this forward foot and then coming up on the step. Okay, now what about going down? I'm squatting and pushing myself into that forward stride on the same leg. And I'm doing it on the ball area and toes of that foot. That's what makes it so difficult. That's what makes it so scary. Just using that forward part of your foot, this, as you squat to lower yourself down in a forward stride down to the floor. And holding that there, get on this foot and notice how far I am away from that step. And that's the big thing with coming down these steps. You have to push your body forward enough so the back of your foot clears that step and comes down on the lower step, while you are supporting yourself on just the ball and toes of one foot and squatting. That's why it's so difficult. If you're standing on both feet and you're having some problems squatting even on both feet, or if you're having some problems squatting as you're coming over here to one foot, and if you're having a problem where it's very difficult for you to stand on one foot, then how are you expecting yourself to be able to walk up the step with control and balance, and coming down the step, it's even scarier because now you have to stand on that one foot just for a second or two while you're on the ball area and toes of that one foot, as you're squatting down onto the ball and toes of that one foot, to push yourself into the forward stride to come down that step in a controlled manner. So now, are you seeing and understanding why coming down the step is the most difficult movement? Why is this soccer ball up here with this talk on step. Well, it's because that soccer ball has everything to do with stepping off of that step. The movement for kicking this ball is the same as what it is for coming down that step. To kick this ball, you're standing on this foot and you're moving forward, because when you kick, you're kicking forward and your body is moving forward. Where does the push come from on this back foot? The ball and toes. It's just kicking the ball is a more forceful stride forward, where you're, boom, kicking that ball and also continuing to push your body forward. Well, look at that, and what happens when I'm doing that? I'm squatting onto this leg, and I'm pushing forward from the ball and toes of this foot, boom, to kick that ball forward, which is the exact same thing you're doing coming down that step. It's the exact same movement. So what do you need to do to prepare yourself or to practice coming down that step? Kicking the ball. Think about it. I'm kicking the ball. There it is. Look how far my foot came away from that step that time. It was way out there. Now, of course, when you have two of these steps together, you have to control where that foot comes down, and that's a big key for a lot of people. They say those steps are too small. I can't get my whole foot on them. You know, I'm different. No, you're not. It's just that you're not controlling your posture to control where that foot comes down. Push up. Oh, what happened there? Did you see how I got up here and I wobbled back that way? What happened? We'll see it over here. Let me move this one forward a little bit. I started this video saying this is a postural problem. And the postural problem is we are so intimidated by these. We do this. Bring your shoulders back. And with that restrictive posture, everything stiffens up because the fear response comes and everything gets exaggerated. So when we're up here, supposed to be pushing from the ball and toes of our feet to come up here like this, what we are doing, I used to as well, and sometimes I still forget. What we are doing, we're back here on our heels, so we're coming up, now we're back here, and where's the pressure on this foot? It's way back there on my heel. When I start to come up there, all I'm doing is pushing myself back. Even just a little bit, shoulders back too far, and you get up here and you're still pushing yourself back. Having your shoulders too far back is a big, big issue. What you need to do is remind yourself every time before you take a step up or a step down, because remember, coming down is a forward stride. So what you have to remember is shoulders forward. In addition to all of the other postural stuff we talked about, nothing is different here except the elevation change. So you need to come out of here and get into your ready stance. Remind yourself, shoulders forward, shoulders forward, shoulders forward. Boom, there you are. Up, go back here. See how I came back just a little bit? That is the killer for a lot of people. And what did you notice when I came up that way? With a slight amount of heel pressure. I was wobbly. My posture was a little guarded. And I was tipping backwards just a little bit. I corrected it and then came down the step. But many times, that is all that's needed to create added problems, added fear, and everything goes downhill. You need to remind yourself, shoulders forward, shoulders forward, shoulders forward, shoulders forward. And when you come up, and here I'm on my heel, that's when you remind yourself, bring those shoulders forward. Or stable. Now, some of you will say, my posture, I was way low there. I was stooped over, and people with a natural ability, they're not doing that. They're not coming way forward like that. They're standing pretty straight up, going down, coming up. Yes, they are. But why can't you do that? Why can't the people with these restrictive postures do that? Well, I just showed you. Those people with the natural ability, they're controlling their posture, they're controlling the pressures on their feet, they're taking their strides up and down, they're keeping their balance, they're doing all of the things, they're doing many of the things that you're not doing. So you have to exaggerate some of this to get yourself into the proper posture alignment and get those legs working good to be able to do what they are doing effortlessly. To be able to do many of the things you used to do like that without a care in the world. So what happened there? Did you see how I went to the side? I made it up all right, but when I came down, instead of coming straight over here, I came over here. What was the problem there? And that is an issue that gets many of you as well. You say, Doc, I did all that stuff to begin with, and I was fine. Well, no, you didn't do all that stuff to begin with. Not everything was fine because the result was not what you thought it was going to be. Why did I come over to the side that way after I got up on the step? Transfer body weight. That's all it was. People with these restrictive postures will have typically this wider stance. And then when they're coming up these steps, they're still using this wider stance. Look how far my feet are still apart. And look at where the weight is on this foot, on top of that step. It's not centered over the foot. I'd have to be way over here. It's on the inside of my foot. So what's going to happen if I continue coming up that step in this posture alignment? Where is my body going to move as I'm moving up? It's going to move to the side as I'm coming up on that step, which is what happened there. I didn't have the pressure centered in the foot on the top of the step. So I pushed myself to the left there. And if I get up here with the pressure on the inside of this foot and I come up, I'm pushing myself to the left. And there, because of that, you saw how I guarded just a little bit in that movement. And those are the simple kinds of mistakes that people make on these steps that makes everything else worse. Because that little mistake then gets the guarding more, and now they become a little bit stiff and they become scared more, and everything tends to go downhill instead of just relaxing. This is just a forward stride. Now imagine if that same person had their feet closer together, transfer body weight here, transfer body weight here, up. Did I do that perfectly? No. I made a couple little errors there. When I came up onto that step, I was a little bit on my heel, not much. And the same thing with coming down. And you saw on the video that I was a little bit unstable because of that. So what do I need to remind myself of? Shoulders forward. But even with those mistakes that I made, with my feet a little bit closer together, and with my transfer of body weight being more centered into each foot, with those little mistakes, I was still okay. And if there was a handrail here and I had my hand there, for those little mistakes, it wouldn't be quite as scary and so problematic because you have a secondary support there that you can use when you need it. So if I had only reminded myself, keep my shoulders forward, taking a little more time, getting centered on that foot, this coming up would be better. Coming down, take your time, center. Not so bad. Steps are not scary monster with a gremlin sitting on each one waiting to upset you and make your day terrible. The terrible, scary thing is up here. These are innocent little steps. People with these restrictive postures see this step, any kind, up, down, big, short, small, tall, whatever. They see that and all the scary stuff starts coming out, and they forget about all the basics that they need to do and continue to be able to negotiate them. Well, a lot of people in this position, they don't know what those basics are. They don't know what they need to do differently than what they're doing to make it safer. They just know they have a problem. And there is the escalation of the problem, not knowing what to do, not knowing what you did before that you need to do all over again. The higher the step is, yes, difficulty level comes a little bit more because you have to push up higher, get this knee coming up more. And I exaggerated it coming up there. So imagine if it was way up here. And then, once you get up here, then you have to squat and push it this foot to bring your body up. And that is a big problem with a lot of people, especially if they don't have the strength in their legs to push themselves up out of that squat using one leg. Now remember back, oh gosh, way back when we were talking about this third stance and squatting, I said you need to be practicing squatting down and coming up on one leg. Standing on a foot, squatting, yes, holding on to something for support, but you need to build up the strength in each leg to be able to use it independently, to be able to balance on that one foot, to be able to do these advancing movements. This makes it even more pronounced. And this is where, and that not being able to balance on that one foot and trust it is the big issue here. It's not just the posture being too upright and guarded, shoulders back. It's also not having the faith in one leg to be able to do the job that those people with natural ability are doing on the steps and make it look so easy, just like you used to do. People with a restrictive posture movement impairment, those with a neurodegenerative disorder, many profit. Why should they do all this physical exercise and activity? Because when they're out there doing it, they just make themselves worse. They have a problem, and we can't do that because we're different. No, we are not. You still need to exercise for all the reasons we've covered. You have to have the ability to do these things. You can learn to do these things much better than you think, but you need to go through the total body conditioning and strengthening to be able to negotiate these steps as well as all these other movements. So if you are in the camp questioning that you should go out there and do an exercise program because of your diagnosis of a neurodegenerative disorder, I advise you to get over it. Yeah, keep in mind all the medical and all the physical problems, medical issues that anybody can have. Put everything in context, but from just this disorder standpoint of this neurodegenerative process, it does not give you a license to sit back and say, oh, I have SCA or I have MSA or I have this or I have that. Therefore, all the games are different for me. I can't do all this stuff. I'm unable to. That's hogwash. Stop fighting yourself. If you want to be able to do this stuff, even walk across the floor, to do the simple things in life that you want to be able to do, you need to exercise. You need to build up your strength and stamina to be able to do this stuff. Otherwise, game over. It's not going to work. So you either get yourself into a better shape and work on this stuff and work through that fatigue and tiredness and clumsiness that you've developed, work through that in an intelligent manner to where you strengthen, your confidence starts to come back, your balance and everything starts to come back better than what it would be if you hadn't been doing that. And some of this stuff becomes easier to do, and some of it becomes, wow, I can't believe how much better I am just because I strengthened my body. Just because I became more stable on my feet, relaxed my mind a little bit more, I can relax my body a little bit more, understanding these basic things of what I need to do. Now I have the fitness level improved to where I can use those things a little bit better. And newsflash, when you start to get better here in your body and you're starting to learn all this stuff from the book and from these videos, then things start making sense and you start doing them, and you start doing them even better. Good days and bad days are going to come. That's going to be with us no matter what we do. But these don't have to be scary. Now, easy for me to say all this stuff, and some people are saying, yeah, but you were never as bad as us. Yeah, look at you. You're still doing these steps and the whole bit. Well, newsflash, gang, I used to be just as afraid of these as many of you are. I used to have the same problem. This could be a curb, and if there wasn't a handrail there, I went around and found somewhere else. Stepping down, oh my God. Stepping up, I don't know about this, and falling off the step and doing all the crazy stuff that you're doing, I was doing that as well. Until I figured it out. All these things that I've been sharing with you, until I figured out how to do it more appropriately. And it began way back 2005 and 6 when I started to question, what is it that other people are doing that I used to do? What are they doing differently than what I am doing? Actually, the opposite. What am I not doing that took me away from that? There's so many things that are working with me, so there's something that I changed that doesn't allow me to do that anymore. And when I started figuring out what it was that I was doing differently, then it started to come back of, oh, this is how it works. This is actually what I did to be able to do that more natural stuff. And that was the same thing on these steps. The exact same thing. Now, I'm doing all this without a handrail. Oh my God. Well, there was a time where I wouldn't do that. And there are still some days where I need to, well, I would like to have the rail there because I'm a bit clumsy, especially on those stiffened days, especially on those bad days, or even on the good days. And after you've worked out and done some activity and you're tired, it's nice to have that handrail there. That's another video that we're going to have to do about how to appropriately use that rail to your benefit instead of your detriment. So I have to remind myself every time I do steps, and there are steps coming into my house, there's 4 of them that I have to do. And other places you go to, I remind myself before I start up those steps, almost every time, shoulders forward, shoulders forward, shoulders forward. Where else do you need to remind yourself of that? Well, with all of your activities, but think about these moving walkways, especially in airports, those scary things that are coming off of and getting on. It's the same thing. You prepare yourself, and then when you come to the beginning, you step forward, shoulders forward. Coming off, same thing, shoulders forward. Take a step off. It's the same thing. None of this is overcomplicated unless you make it that way. And indeed, many of us have. We have much more to do on steps, but let's keep this video about where we're at now and get back into the second one here in just a few minutes.